Hello everyone, James Donaldson here, and if you want to support us, you can buy into our Spy series. We do have more books coming, links below. And if you want to see what we're doing between videos, follow us on Instagram. Hello everyone, James Donaldson here with the Contemporary Gentleman, and today I'm going to be talking about the way I've outfitted my MCX in 300 Blackout. Stay tuned. So something I do want to reiterate. I think I said it in the 5561. If I forgot, then here you go. But basically, these guns are not in their final configuration. Just remember that I've done my best to research and be thoughtful about how I would outfit these guns. But at the end of the day, if certain things aren't working or I can't train around certain things, then I'm going to make changes. So, in the interest of making sure that people don't just do things like I do them, because I'm sure it's going to start happening as this channel grows, really put in thought. And if you're watching this video to research what you might want to do, awesome. That's why this video is here. If you're just going to do what I did, I mean, it's America. Do whatever you want. I'm not going to be offended, right? Flattery and all that. But I encourage you to put your own thought into it. So let's get into this. Diving right into the meat and potatoes, what was the thought process? What was the purpose behind this gun? Well, key factors, lightweight, compact and compactable, meaning right, kind of a thin, compact setup. I know it's long, but then this is this length with a can on it, right? It's a 9-inch barrel, and then of course it slides down. So compactable, the rail comes right off, can comes right off, then the length is really only here. If I separate it from the lower, then it's just here. So about, where's the rail end? Here to here is what we're talking about in terms of, so I'll roll in some pictures obviously, and you'll see what I was able to accomplish. And then at the end of the day, simple. So let's get into it. So this is my 300 Blackout, and it does have a 9-inch barrel. I would consider a 6.75, probably no shorter, but I really don't mind the length of this setup. I like it, so I'm probably going to stick with it. Plus the cost of barrels and all that. So anyway, let's talk sights. So I went with the EoTech EXPS 3-2. So I know it's going to do an XPS because of the size versus a 512. The E means it's lower 1/3 co-witness. The 3 at the end means it's night vision compatible, which is an important aspect of this gun. So even if I eventually put it back in the 5.56 configuration, I will be using it for night vision. So that was a plus. The -2 means the reticle has 2 dots instead of 1. More on that in a bit. So overall, it was a hard decision between going with an Aimpoint Comp M5, a T2, even considered an Acro at one point, or did I want to do an EoTech EXPS 3. It was a decision that was agonized over, and then we had to decide what reticle if we went with EoTech. And at the end of the day, it came to prioritizing. When it comes to use and need, close range with fast acquisition under normal conditions and night vision shooting is the name of the game with this gun. So the EoTech made sense. And then as for the 2-dot reticle, having dual use, I called EoTech and they said that the EXPS3-2 reticle has the same subtensions as their 300 Blackout model's reticle. This means the gun can be zeroed to both supersonic and subsonic ammo simultaneously without having to re-zero anything, as long as I use the same rounds for each type. This ability also gave the EoTech a big edge over the other optics that I was considering. Now, getting into it. Optic mount. So, we just couldn't decide if the 2.26 inch height was going to be too much. As it turns out, even with the higher height over bore that the MCX has versus a standard AR-15, the 2.26 works great. And to some degree, I'm kind of like, well, it could be a little taller, but like, you know, that's just because I want to line up my eyesight perfect. But it's never going to happen, because at some point the optic would have to come over here and I just hold it like that. Or I'd have to put the gun like this, which I won't do. So, but if you compare it to lower 1/3 even, which is probably more like down here, I am able to co-witness this with my PVS 14s. So, I guess the point to all that is a lot of thought, a lot of, oh, is this going to work? What's it going to look like? All that. And, I like the 2.26. As I already stated, I was considering an aimpoint T2 for this, and for that I was between a 1.93 inch mount and a 2.26. Using this riser confirms that I would go with the Unity. So I'd probably skip the ScalarWorks 193 and go with the Unity. There are some caveats to that, why I would maybe go 193, but that's probably something for a different video. Other than height, there's really not a lot to say about the mount that isn't obvious. You know, it's light, it's durable, it's a good height, and it's simple, right? You know me, big fan of simplicity. I like sophistication, but that's another topic. So, especially mounted on the MCX, it just looks so good, especially with the EoTech. So, big fan of the mount, definitely check them out. Now, when it comes to light, right, we're trying to be lightweight. We're trying to cut down on complication, keep things simple. So, simple, Surefire pressure pad. So we are white light, temporary, constant on. I know there's all kinds of fancy stuff, people talking about, you know, you only want temporary on, all that. For sure, I'm working on training. I started out with what I was familiar with. And I'll make little modifications here and there as I go, maybe end up with other gear. So there will be a video, probably at least a year from now, if not longer, kind of talking about some of the journey I went through and what I'd probably have on my rifle or pistol. Well, it'll be a rifle by then, at that time. So as I mentioned, some of the other video or videos, this is undergoing the process of Form 1ing. So right now it is legally a pistol. I have at least 120 days. It's 120 if it's been submitted to whatever, and I don't know if it's had the full submission yet. So either way, at least 120 days. They're taking about 60 days right now. My Form 1 is in, so this will be a rifle and not a pistol anymore, which is so asinine to say. And I was going to do that before this ATF business because it's time to grow up, Peter Pan. I wanted to be an adult, have an SBR. Anyway, let's move on. So getting back to the light, shows the Surefire SR07 light remote switch. So I'll start off by saying I hardly have any time on a mod light or AirSocket product, so that's probably why I didn't choose either of them. As for Streamlight, they're good, but I found Surefire to be better as far as rifle lights, especially when comparing switches. I know, Streamlight's cheaper. Feel free to argue with me in the comments about how cost directly influences other attributes of the product. Or doesn't. All that said, much of the theme behind this build is light, compactable, versatile, and simple. Therefore, we've also left a dedicated IR device off. Instead, the Surefire pulls double duty. And this is another reason why I didn't go with AirSocket or Mod Light, because to my knowledge, they don't have a head that switches. I know their IR, their dedicated IR is better, and their dedicated white light, you know, all that. I get it, I know, but that's not the thought behind this. And for what I use this for, I am pretty sure the Surefire is going to exceed my needs. And if it doesn't, well, we will revisit the topic in at least a year. But a big piece of it for me with this light is not only is it pulling double duty, but it's got an off setting. And I really like that to avoid negligent discharges, because believe it or not, even in IR mode, there may be a time when I don't want to discharge IR light and give away position to somebody. So that is a really big feature that I really, really like. And so anyway, that's another reason. Something else that I've learned just in using this is how bright 350 lumens can look. This goes to support what I've been saying, like cost. Don't just use lumens as your one-all be-all deciding factor for product selection. This has near the candela as the 1000 lumen dual fuel Surefire Light Pro that's on my 5.56 gun. So let that be a lesson to you that lumens ain't everything. As for what I've seen of the IR, it did work great in the 40-yard bay I shoot in usually for this type of shooting. Past that, I haven't experienced it. A friend of mine did have their dedicated IR mod light out, and of course it was incredible. Not gonna say it wasn't, but so you may or may not see one of those on mine. Probably not, as I don't want to screw with rechargeable batteries. Finally, the switch. I just like it. It adds a little weight and lots of convenience. Plus, it easily strips off to move between rails, but not too easily. Also, having one part of the switch be temporary on and one part being constant on is a nice change of pace compared to my dual switch, which only allows for light to be temporary on. An understandable circumstance with an available workaround, as you would see in that video. Overall, while this choice might not be perfect, it provides good weight savings with little performance compromise. Let's talk can. Plan to try out two different ones. For me, and probably for most people, I really notice changes through inconsistency. So meaning that it's going to be hard for me to pick up a difference between the CGS Hyperion and the other 30 cal can I have, the Gemtech 1, if I just run them back to back. Fire mag through one, switch them, fire mag. So basically I'm committing the Hyperion for now, and after a lot of use, I will probably switch the one and then see how things look. So if it's similarly quiet, there are some benefits. I would do a QD, quick attach, whatever you're going to call it, mount for the Gemtech 1 if I end up using it on this. While I do like keeping the barrel as short as possible, so not having a flash hider mount on it, at the same time, being able to quickly attach the can is great, especially when I'm using the other rail, which I'll kind of talk about the difference between rails. Visually and functionally, this is the better rail of the two. I like running it all the way out. This is a 16-inch rail. I tried to do a lot of research. Hardly anyone's running the 16-inch rail, even on barrel and can combos that are plenty long like mine. They seem to still run only the 12-inch. I don't know why. I kind of started to wonder if there was some compatibility issue or it was hard to find one. It really wasn't that hard. So I'm running the 16-inch suppressor-friendly rail, and I like it a lot. The other one kind of has a cool MP5 aesthetic, but functionality, and this I still think looks even better. It's great. So I don't really know what the deal is, but I can get my light all the way out there even with it. I don't need an adapter, and my hand being able to come out. Now, with some people, what I kind of wondered about is, okay, maybe your hand being out here gets hot, or maybe just the rail being out there and that extra, bits of metal are going to trap in heat, and it's going to, I don't know if it's just because it's been cold when I've been firing it, or I haven't just, full on 2016 style when ammo was cheap mag dumped through this gun yet, or done that hard enough, but I can't get it that hot. Maybe the Gemtech 1 will be different because the baffles are designed differently, so that could be it. But as far as this gun goes, it doesn't get that hot. I mean, the can I can touch after I run a couple mags through it. I don't know. I know the system, technically the piston system is gonna run cooler, but still, I'm kind of surprised. Don't think I'll need rail scales or anything like that even, at least for this gun. So Now, switch to 5.56 barrel and run that ammo through, maybe a different story. But as my 5.56 sits now, when it was 11.5, that didn't get hot either. So anyway, that's what I can tell you about the rails. That's all information I had to gather because I could not really find it anywhere. A lot of liking pictures and talking to people on Instagram of their setups. I don't know why no one's running 16-inch. Anyway, back to the Hyperion. I basically chose it for sound performance. This is pretty much the quietest 30 caliber can on the market. I guess according to Pew Science, the Q can is now slightly quieter, but I mean, let's be real, I probably won't hear a difference. Feel a difference, maybe, but with the amount of use this is getting, which is not as much, especially as like a 30 cal gun or a 5.56 gun, I don't think I'd notice. Plus, they're in such a higher echelon of cans that, again, I don't think I'd notice. Even going to other calibers like 6.5 Creedmoor, this is pretty much the quietest can. Others have been tested on 6.5 by Pew Science, so we'll see. But at this point, I don't think one can argue against that, how quiet this is. Especially with the J situation / Pew Science and Alabama Arsenal weighing in. Yeah, I just think that this was the right move. Yeah, the can is long, right? But again, I was going for silence and just knocking off a few inches. I think I was going to lose a lot more in performance than gain in terms of maneuverability. So, well, sometimes one might be willing to compromise a little sound reduction, which often relates to length. For less weight or a shorter can, we were not. The first goal was how quiet can we get a formidable gun. Second was how compact can we get that same gun. So, though the suppressor's 9 inches long, the sound reduction was worth it. Not to mention, its all titanium construction makes it lightweight and easy to wield. I will add that because these cans are made with a taper and this barrel's made with a taper, they made it together perfectly, and I'll need an adapter whether I direct thread the one or use the muzzle device. Just kind of a detail, not a big deal, but I guess in my mind I really like the way it threads on. Plus the 15-degree throw on the threads locks it in, so I really have had no issues with this can trying to walk off even though it's direct thread. Really haven't had it stick on too much, but I mean, 300 Blackout's twice the cost of 5.56 pretty much, so I just don't shred through 300 Blackout rounds on this gun, at least not as of yet, to where I think I would start causing those issues. But who knows? Maybe I would, maybe I can't, so we'll see. As for the construction of the can, it's 3D printed, DMLS, direct metal laser sintering, which means no welds, welds being the weakest point of any suppressor, of course, or really anything constructed with metal. Something experiencing a thermal cycle is going to be even harder on said welds. The 3D printing also means the more complicated flow pattern can be used. This results in a more efficient management of the gases than your average can, such as its counterpart in my safe, the Gemtech 1. As for mounting this can, as I said, it's a direct thread can, and with the taper and everything, it works great. For the use this can was selected for, QD setup would only add weight and length, especially length, to the barrel. As far as the brace / stock, so this is a brace, SB Tactical MPX PSB. It's got kind of three settings. I wish it didn't have the middle one. I don't know who or why someone would use it. So I wish there was some kind of stopper and I could just extend. Anyway, not a big deal. I kind of trained around it where my hand is long enough to get it to where I can go all the way. Maybe trivial to do, maybe you like hearing that information. I know it's kind of trivial because these things are technically going to be illegal to one extent or another, very vague extent. But who knows? Bump stocks are back in and legal. So, it's been a couple of years, so who knows? These things could be back in. I hope they are, because at the point I don't need them, I really wish I could just sell them. It'd be at a loss for sure, but at the same time, recoup some money for buying stocks. So, anyway. As I said, waiting on SBR stamp. Sling, I don't have it yet. It's going to be QD. Not as worried about noise. So I got a QD mount right here. I added that. They come with one here and here. And then there's not one back here, but the SIG stock I have for it, which I'll put in when the tax stamp comes in, it'll have an attachment back here. And so basically I can just QD on. This gun is set up so that I can take it apart very quickly. So that'll be part of it. Otherwise, the sling's just going to hold it all together. I will add the sling is going to be a Blue Force Gear Vicker sling. As I said in the other video, to me those are the only slings that I'll probably ever buy unless some really crazy cool design comes out. Which part of what I like about the Vicker sling is that it's simple. So I don't know if you can get more simple than that and still have the slide feature. So caveats and variables, I did have in my notes that I would talk about how it doesn't get hot, but we already talked about that. So I'll jump right into brass shavings. I am using SIG ammo pretty much exclusively, the same 220 grain I think it is, 300 Blackout ammo, and I don't know, it's like shredding it in here. I've seen some stuff where people are saying that's the powder that you're seeing, not brass. I don't know, I need to inspect the shell casings better next time I shoot it, but that is one thing where I don't really understand what's happening. I don't know why. It's pretty easy to remove it, but anyway, if anyone knows what I'm dealing with or what's going on, feel free to write in the comments. I'd appreciate any input. I haven't dove into that research yet on what the hell is going on, but I will. At some point, you'll see my the results of my research. Honestly, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be surprised if I end up, since this is already going to be an SBR, the other one is a 16-inch barrel, going ahead and putting the 11.5 5.56 barrel in this. I love the look. It is super fun to shoot. I guess I really haven't commented on it. It is quiet, for sure. This can is incredible. Really is a joy to shoot. And just the whole concept of the kind of firepower you can bring and be that quiet, you know, is really neat to have. I mean, it's America. But we're allowed to have this? Fucking have it. I did, but 300 Blackout, as I said earlier, is twice the cost of 5.56. Where that other gun is heavy, I can see me getting kind of lazy, converting this to the 5.56 gun, and then just using this a lot. Probably use the one on it to manage the gas, and then anyway, so I mean, part of me doesn't want to do that because this is so cool, and you know, it's re-zeroing, but anyway, we'll see what happens. So all that being said, there is also the possibility that since I have that other barrel, I'll go ahead and start assembling another upper. As I said in another video, one of the other two on the MCX, it's actually cheaper to just buy a whole upper together as one piece, versus buy the barrel, then buy an upper stripped, then buy the carrier assembly. And probably what I'd even do is buy the stripped upper and then buy an optic for it, probably Comp M5 or something, and then just move the bolt carrier around with the cans and stuff. So anyway, yeah, so there we have that. So all in all, though I don't have a lot of experience with 300 Blackout, in fact I think I've only fired 300 Blackout through MCX's, someone else's, and then these. I mean, this is functionally, engineering wise, if you watch my intro to MCX, this is just an outstanding platform for that round. As good as it is for 5.56, the way they've set up the management, as I said in the intro video, which if you haven't watched, the gas system on the 300 Blackout is different than the 5.56. The 5.56, the plus is for adverse. You really should run it in the minus all the time, unless you have just that weak of ammo or the conditions are that rough. Maybe you got mud in it and all that shit. But 300 Blackout, I mean, it should be in minus for everything, unless you're running subs. So suppressed or unsuppressed with supersonic, minus setting. Subsonic, which you're probably going to have a suppressor on, plus setting. So that's pretty neat. Looking at the gas valves, the holes are different between the two platforms, so just a really well thought out design. The way they have the cuts here, so you could do the collapsible, or you could do the stock, you know, or other braces, whatever. The modularity, it's just all fantastic. The fact that I can have two very different guns with the exact same platform, I really like. And so bringing it back around, having it in 300 Blackout is kind of a dream. Overall, if you're going to have one rifle, an MCX in 5.56 is one of your best options. However, having it in 300 Blackout is probably like a second or third best option, just for all the benefits that 5.56 has. Yes, 300 Blackout is stealthy, James Bond quiet, but that's not everything. For this build it is, but if it was my only build, it would not be. So understand, choosing caliber is as important as choosing a weapon platform. Maybe in your scenario, 300 Blackout is better than 5.56 for what's going on in your life. Then by all means, I strongly recommend you look into this platform. The MCX is a great platform overall, but which caliber you buy, as I said, depends on you. All that having been mentioned, if you choose 300 Blackout and you want a semi-auto platform, based on what I've seen so far, this is probably your best option. This has been James Donaldson with the Contemporary Gentleman, and until next time, keep your composure.